Hi there, my name is Pastor Andrew Christie. I'm a senior pastor and team leader of Willow Hill Vineyard. You would have seen the video clip that Chris put together from our church at Oakfield Farm. I have one wife, Mandy, and three children, and have been in ministry, well, since the last century. I look forward to sharing with you, and thank you for your time as I unpack this thing of church planting and best practices from our perspective. I lead on the Vineyard National Leadership Team as well, and lead churches in Zimbabwe, Botswana, and in various other places as well. The first question is why we plant churches. Well, we are all too often Christmas and Easter Christians. We go to church at Christmas, at Easter, weddings, and funerals. When we hatched, matched, and dispatched. And too often the Christianity is, well, just get saved and get to heaven, but there's a whole lot of stuff that happens in between that. What about too often we look at the Bible and we talk about Jesus' birth and his death, but there was a whole lot that happened in between that. And how does that affect our lives? And I think the church is a place where we can engage and explore those thoughts and those purposes in our lives. We look at why we need churches. Well, we're looking at xenophobia, racial discrimination, gender-based violence, corruption, and all the stuff that is going on in our nation. And with what's happened with COVID, we're seeing such a dramatic highlighting of all these issues in our society, and we need to address them. And the church is a place where people can come to grow and to be healed, and we can address so many of these issues and help people grow up into the people God has called them to become. The world is in the spiral of secularism, pluralism, universalism, and self-worship. And actually, for so many people, it's about the profane trinity of me, myself, and I. And the reality is that we live for something beyond ourselves, and we need to be part of that. And part of what God calls us to is to express our gifting, our time, our energy, our money, our talents to change and transform communities and society. When Jesus speaks of healing, he speaks of soteria. The Greek word is soteria. It's the Greek healing, and it means holistic healing, spiritually, emotionally, physically, but also bringing healing to society, social justice, and so much more. And that is what Jesus brings, and that is why we plant churches. Why do we plant churches? We want to fulfill Jesus' commission to go and make disciples of all the nations. That's what he called us to. In Matthew 18, all authority has been given to me, therefore go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Surely I'm with you always into the very end of the age. Jesus calls us to make disciples, and the best place for discipleship is the church. We plant churches to reach a spiraling, lost, and broken world. And if you just look at social media, if you look at the news, the corruption, and it's not just in South Africa, it's all over the world. We're just seeing horrible stuff happening. I believe the church is the answer. This is part of why we plant churches, because we want to empower, equip, and release the least and the lost. It's not about giving people, that cliche, the proverbial fish, but we want to give them a fishing rod. We want to equip people and give them dignity as people created in God's image, who can grow and develop and become all who God has called them to be, self-sustaining, self-propagating, people who can look after themselves and care for themselves, who can rise up and be leaders within their communities and take care of themselves and break a victim mentality in people and bring them to a place of restoration and hope. The reality is we plant churches because the church was Jesus' idea. And I just really believe an answer to so many of the issues in our society. Just a quick story on church. In our valley, that we've called it the Kingdom Valley Lean, Local Ecumenical Action Network, since COVID came in from Northcliffe to Muldersdrift, Lion Park, and Krugersdorp, we have raised just over R1 million, the church, and given just on 1 million meals to people in the community. That is the church at work. And now we are wanting to equip people, so we're doing Farming God's Way training, and we are doing leadership and discipleship training with people, and we are equipping people to take care of themselves. So that is why we plant churches, because we have had such a response. Imagine 1 million meals being given out in this community since the beginning of COVID. It's just an incredible thing. That is the church at work. What is our model and practice? Well, there's so many models, and every model has a place. And I don't know that there's one specific model that is the best. There are various different ways of planting church. Normally within the vineyard, we'd start with a life group or connect group or home group, whatever you call it, raise up leaders, grow up the group, and then multiply it out and keep doing that until we say we have 3 groups, 3 or 4 groups, and you have a leadership team, an eldership team, eldership or leadership team, worship team, finance team, etc., and then go to Sunday mornings. We also have a model of launching church, where we actually take a group of leaders and we send them to an area or to a city or to a nation, and they go and they plant a church. They get work, they get jobs in the communities, and start befriending people, start loving on people, and see church planted that way. We also have planted churches into movie houses, restaurants, even a pub. We planted a church in Cape Town in a pub. It started in a pub on a Sunday night. And, you know, there are so many models of doing church, but it is all to build community and effect community. It is not to come in, put up a tent, do a crusade, and leave. We want to see incarnational ministry. We want to see churches that are authentic, vibrant, healthy bodies of Christ that live with biblical values. And as there's just so many ways of doing that, but traditionally it would be through life groups and small groups, or through launch. How did we do that, and where? Well, Willow Hill Vineyard, we started in 2000 in our home, and within about 18 months the church just grew to about 40 people in our lounge on a Wednesday evening. And we planted at LaSalle College, Catholic College on the West Rand, and we used their school hall for about 3 years. Then things began to change for us and develop from there, and we moved to Ontdekker's Crane, which was a large Dutch Reformed church, and I was known as Die Klein Dominee in die Informeel Kerk, the little minister in the informal church, you know, because we wore jeans, well, I wear jeans and whatever the case is, but we were there for about 15 years, and then we launched another community, another church at Oakfield Farm, and for various reasons we just moved the whole thing down there in 2015. So we've been there for 5 odd years or whatever it is. So that's how we did it. It's been our journey. Yeah, and it is an absolute. Some insights of where fruit has been seen, as well as a few key challenges. Well, people come to church for many reasons. They stay for one, because they build relationships. You know, it doesn't matter how comfortable your chairs are, how good your coffee is, how wonderful your worship team is. People will stay because they find friends and they build relationships. Remember, very importantly, the context you're going to plant into. Never underestimate the importance of local knowledge. We need to know if we're moving into a community, what language, what culture. You know, we don't underestimate that. You can't bring a nice Cape Town beach kind of culture and come and plant it in central Joburg. It's just not going to work. The most effective means of growing the church is still personal friendship, evangelism, and invitation. In doing this for, like I said, since the last century, you know, so I've been doing this for a while. You know, we've tried, and you drop flyers, and you do Facebook, and you do Instagram, and you do this, and you do that, and you put up big signs, and whatever the case may be. But how many people would be driving down the road on a Sunday morning and see a church sign and go, oh, I think I'll just go there this morning. I think it's good. We must have. Let's not underestimate the power of marketing and signs and visibility to the public. Absolutely, it's important. But the most powerful way of growing a church where fruit has been in friendship, evangelism, and personal invitation. You know, you can send 100 texts on a Sunday morning. I wonder how many people would respond to coming to church. But if you pick up the phone and you go, hey, George, Peter, Sipo, Glad, whatever, I'm going to church this morning. Why don't you come with me? I bet you'd have a much better success rate at drawing people into church. Also, another insight is always put people before programs. We need to put people before programs. Otherwise, what happens is we just burn people out. So the reality is people come first. And we don't prop up the structure and put all sorts of programs in place and then try and plug people into it. We rather put the word out and say, hey, you know what, we have a children's church. Would you like, we don't need someone for children's church, but how would you like to be part of breathing life and equipping young people for the future? It's a very different way of communicating things. And if a program in the church doesn't work, or it slows down, or its season is over, we don't make an idol out of it. We don't flog a dead horse. If it's not working anymore, we change it. It is always people before programs. Some more few things to share with you in terms of challenges and insights in kind of starting new things in church. I always use the word experiment. We're going to experiment with this for a season, because when we say, okay, we're doing this for the next 5 years, and after a year you realize this is not working, or whatever the case may be. So, you know, we want to be able to be a little bit fluid within the church, and that has been helpful language for me. And actually, before, I'm going to just kick back there, just go back, take that. So just to say on that, and it's not on my slide, but the thought occurs to me, if anyone starts a new ministry in your church, they must always take someone with them. Who is their Timothy? Because people will so often come to church and go, we want to start this ministry, we want to start that ministry, we want to start this thing, this initiative, this feeding scheme, this whatever it is. My response is always, your vision, your job, but who are you taking with you? Because in 6 months' time, if you're tired of this, who's going to continue with it? So we must always be taking a Timothy with us, someone that we're mentoring, someone that is walking with us, that can take over from us and help us with it. While small groups are the lifeblood of the church, people are tired, especially in Joburg, people are exhausted. So we run small groups for a season, for school terms. They stop during school holidays, and after school holidays we relaunch the life groups. And if the life group leaders have got energy and they want to carry on, cool. If they don't, then that life group just takes a break for that season, because people are tired, people are busy, they don't want to start. While life groups are the lifeblood of the church, people often don't want to start them, because they go, listen, the only way I get out of this is if I die or Jesus comes back. So we relaunch them term to term. We want people to connect in smaller, more relational groups. So for us, it's not necessarily a Bible study. When I say small groups are the lifeblood of the church, people can be in the worship team, the children's church, tea, outreach. There's so many small groups. As long as you're part of a smaller group of people where you're connecting with people relationally. And people often say to me, this church is not friendly. I'm like, well, are you part of anything? Have you joined the worship team, the lady, whatever the case may be? We need to be part of, we want to encourage people to be part of smaller groups within the church. Also, we believe in incarnational ministry. I'm almost done. I had 15 minutes, I'm on 14 minutes. Incarnational ministry, the shepherd should always smell like his sheep. If so we don't come in, minister, and leave. We part of that community. We build with that community. We build with those people, and we spend time together. And then persevere, friends. This is not an easy journey. Church planting is not easy, and we need to persevere. You need to push through. Scripture says, persevere, persevere, persevere. Don't believe the hype. Continue on. If God has called you to plant a church, plant it, but it takes time, it takes energy, and it takes perseverance. So I pray this has been helpful. I look forward to engaging with you in our questions and answers time. Have a wonderful day. God bless.